Of course, here's your engaging and human-centric introduction. Imagine this: it's the beginning of 2025. The world is moving fast, technology is evolving, and opportunities are everywhere. Yet, amidst all the noise, there's one truth that remains unchanged. The people who achieve real success aren't the ones constantly announcing their plans. They're the ones working quietly, relentlessly, while the rest of the world watches and wonders how they did it. Think about the last time you set a big goal for yourself. Maybe it was starting a new business, leveling up in your career, or transforming your health. At first, there was excitement. You told a few people, and they encouraged you. But then, as the days went by, the motivation faded. The compliments stopped, the excitement wore off, and suddenly, it was just you, alone with your goal, your discipline, and your willingness to keep going when no one else was watching. This is where true success is born, not in the spotlight, not in the applause, but in the silent hours of effort when no one is paying attention. The late nights, the early mornings, the sacrifices that most people will never see. That's the kind of work that makes a difference. Simon Sinek once said, "Consistency is more important than intensity," and in 2025, this lesson is more important than ever. The people who will rise above aren't the ones making noise about their success before it happens. They're the ones putting their heads down and doing the work, even when nobody believes in them yet. But here's the challenge: silence is hard. It's tempting to show off progress, to prove to others that you're making moves. Social media has made it even easier to share every step of the journey. But ask yourself, do you want to impress people for a moment, or do you want to build something so powerful that when it finally speaks, the world has no choice but to listen? This is where most people get stuck. They get caught up in seeking validation instead of staying focused. They let distractions pull them away from their path, and before they know it, another year passes by with nothing to show for it. But not you, not this time. Because this year, 2025, is different. This is the year you work harder than ever, not for likes, not for approval, but for results. This is the year you embrace the silence, knowing that when the time is right, your work will speak louder than any words ever could. So, are you ready? Because what happens next will determine everything. Of course, here's the continuation of your story. Every great success story begins the same way, silently. The long, unseen hours of effort. The small, consistent choices that seem insignificant at first, but eventually build into something unstoppable. This is the part most people overlook. They see the end result, the achievements, the recognition, the life-changing moments, but they rarely see what it took to get there. Somewhere right now, someone is making a decision that will define their future. Maybe it's a young entrepreneur working on an idea late into the night, long after everyone else has gone to sleep. Maybe it's an athlete pushing through exhaustion while no one is watching. Maybe it's you, sitting in silence, wrestling with doubt, but still choosing to move forward. The real battle is never in front of an audience. It happens in the moments when giving up feels easier than pushing through. There's a reason why so many people start but never finish. The journey is hard, it's lonely. When you choose to work in silence, there's no instant gratification. No one is clapping for you when you make the right choices. No one is watching when you show up for yourself every single day. And that's why most people don't last. They crave the validation, the approval, the proof that they're on the right track. But success doesn't work that way. It demands patience. It demands trust in the process, even when there are no immediate signs of progress. Think about the people who inspire you the most, the ones who seem to have figured it out, who have built something incredible. They weren't always at the top. There was a time when they were unknown, unnoticed, just like anyone else. The difference? They didn't waste time proving themselves to others. They used that time to get better, to sharpen their skills, to build something real. They let their work speak for itself. Simon Sinek talks about the power of discipline and consistency, how small efforts, repeated over time, create results that seem impossible to everyone else. But here's what most people don't understand. There's no shortcut. You can't skip the silent phase of success. You can't rush the work. Every step matters. Every setback is part of the process. And if you can endure the silence, if you can keep going when there's no applause, you're already ahead of most people. But this is where the real challenge begins, because silence isn't just about working in private. It's about facing the inner battles that come with it, the doubts that creep in when things don't happen as fast as you hoped, the temptation to compare yourself to others who seem to be moving faster, the fear that maybe, just maybe, all this effort won't pay off. This is what separates those who dream from those who do. The ability to keep pushing forward, even when the results aren't immediate. Right now, someone out there is waiting for the perfect moment to start. They're waiting for the right conditions, for motivation to strike, for a sign that guarantees their success. But that moment will never come. The truth is, the only way forward is to begin. To start before you feel ready. To commit even when no one is watching. To do the work in silence, knowing that one day the results will be undeniable. And that's where the real shift happens, not in the loud, public moments of recognition, but in the quiet, unseen hours of dedication. The question is, will you embrace the silence? Or will you wait for a moment that may never come? Because the choice you make today will define the story you tell tomorrow. There's a moment in every journey when doubt creeps in, when the silence becomes too heavy, too unbearable, when the voice in your head starts asking, is this even worth it? It's easy to stay motivated in the beginning, when the idea is fresh and the excitement is high. But what happens when progress feels invisible? When the work you're putting in doesn't seem to be paying off? This is where most people give up, not because they aren't capable, but because they expect results too soon. They think success is a straight line, a simple formula where effort equals immediate reward. But that's not how it works. The hardest part is the middle, the long stretch of time when nothing seems to be happening, when every day feels the same, and there's no sign that you're any closer to your goal. Imagine a young man sitting alone in a small apartment. He wakes up before the sun rises, pours himself a cup of coffee, and sits down at his desk. His friends don't understand why he spends so much time working when there's no immediate payoff. They invite him out, tell him he's wasting his time. But he knows something they don't. He understands that the work he's putting in now, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, will shake his future. At the same time, there's someone else, in another part of the world, who started with the same dream. But they've lost patience. They started looking for shortcuts, for an easier way to get ahead. They chase trends, trying to get noticed, hoping that if they make enough noise, success will come faster. But what they don't realize is that chasing attention is a distraction. It pulls them away from the real work, the kind of work that creates lasting results. The conflict isn't just external, it's internal. It's the battle between patience and frustration, between discipline and distraction. Every day, you have a choice. You can stay focused, trust the process, and keep building in silence. Or you can give in to the urge to prove yourself too soon, to seek validation before the work is ready. But the silence can be overwhelming. The world is loud, full of distractions, full of people who seem to be moving faster, achieving more. It's easy to wonder if you're doing something wrong, if you're falling behind. This is where many people break. They abandon their path, convinced that they weren't meant to succeed. But what if the silence isn't a sign of failure? What if it's the most important part of the journey? The time when your skills sharpen, your mindset strengthens, your vision becomes clearer. What if the quiet moments are where real success is built? Not everyone will understand this. Some will mock your patience, question your choices. But the ones who stay committed, who keep working in silence, will be the ones who emerge stronger. The question is, when the noise fades and the distractions disappear, will you still be standing? There comes a point when the silence feels unbearable. The long nights, the early mornings, the endless cycle of effort with no applause, no recognition. Doubt starts creeping in like a shadow, whispering questions you don't want to answer. Asterisk, what if this isn't working? What if I'm wasting my time? What if everyone else was right? Asterisk. This is the breaking point, the moment where most people give up, not because they aren't capable, but because the weight of uncertainty feels too heavy. They start looking for a sign, something, anything, to confirm that they're on the right path. But nothing comes, no sudden breakthrough, no instant success, just more silence. And that silence feels louder than ever. At the same time, the world outside moves on. People who started at the same time seem to be making progress. Some are getting noticed, gaining recognition. The temptation to abandon patience, to chase after quick wins, becomes overwhelming. The thought of taking a shortcut lingers, just a small compromise, just one step away from the process. But deep down, you know the truth. The ones who rise too fast often fall just as quickly. The ones who take shortcuts miss the lessons that only struggle can teach. The ones who seek validation too soon never learn the power of real, lasting work. Somewhere in the middle of all this, something shifts. Not a dramatic breakthrough, not an overnight transformation, but a realization. The silence isn't empty. It's full of progress that can't be seen yet. It's full of unseen growth, of quiet victories, of slow but steady improvement. The mind sharpens, the skills deepen, the discipline strengthens. Every day, without realizing it, you're becoming someone different, someone stronger. But right when this realization settles in, the biggest test comes. A moment of real, undeniable pressure. The kind that forces a decision, stay the course or take the easy way out. And this time, the stakes are higher. The exhaustion is real, the struggle feels endless. Everything in you wants to walk away, to escape the weight of it all. This is the moment that defines everything. The choice that will determine whether the work in silence was worth it or if it all ends here. The world won't know it's happening. There won't be an audience watching. Just you alone, staring at the path ahead, knowing that one decision will change everything. The silence stretches, heavier than ever. The question remains unanswered, and for a moment, time stands still. The next move will decide it all. And then, just when the silence seems unbearable, something unexpected happens. Not a breakthrough, not a victory, but a setback so sharp it cuts deeper than all the doubts before. After all this time, after all this effort, the path that once felt clear is suddenly crumbling. The progress that was so slow, so painstakingly built, now seems to be slipping away. A project fails, an opportunity vanishes, a mistake, one that seemed small at first, spirals into something bigger. The weight of it is suffocating. This wasn't supposed to happen, not after everything. Not after choosing patience, discipline, consistency. The world always says hard work pays off, but in this moment it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a cruel joke, like proof that maybe, just maybe, this was all for nothing. And just as doubt reaches its peak, another blow lands. Someone else, someone who took the shortcuts, who ignored the process, suddenly rises. They get the recognition, the success, the moment you've been working toward. And it stings. Not because you resent their success, but because it forces a brutal question. Asterisk, what if I was wrong? What if the silent work, the long nights, the sacrifices, what if none of it actually mattered? Asterisk. The temptation to give in is stronger than ever. For the first time, walking away doesn't just feel like an option, it feels like relief. No more waiting. No more struggling. No more fighting a battle that no one else can see. And maybe that's the hardest part of all. Because when no one is watching, when no one would even know if you quit, what reason is left to keep going? But then something shifts. A thought, quiet but undeniable. A realization that wasn't there before. Asterisk, this moment right here. The pain, the setback, the doubt. This is the real test. Asterisk. It was never about how hard you could work when things were going well. It was never about showing up when motivation was high. It was about this. The breaking point. The moment where most people let go. Because here's the truth, The ones who truly succeed don't just endure silence. They endure failure. They take the setbacks, the losses, the moments that should have broken them, and they turn them into something stronger. And this is that moment. The moment that will decide everything. But right before the choice is made, something else happens, something no one saw coming. A twist in the journey, a shift so unexpected it changes everything. But not in the way anyone would have predicted. The stakes are now higher than ever. The path ahead is more uncertain than before, and now there is no turning back. And then, just when everything seems to be falling apart, something unexpected happens. Not a grand victory, not a sudden breakthrough, but a moment of clarity. The silence, the struggle, the failures, they weren't signs of failure at all. They were part of the process, shaping something stronger, something that couldn't be built any other way. It's about knowing, deep down, that none of this was ever about the world noticing. It was about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to be noticed to keep going. The kind of person who works hard in silence, not for recognition, but because they know that's where real success is built. The noise of the world fades. The distractions lose their power. And for the first time, there is no doubt, no hesitation, just the quiet confidence of someone who has truly mastered the hardest lesson of all. The silence was never the enemy. It was always the path. As the weight of the journey settles, a quiet sense of understanding replaces the struggle. There was no sudden moment where everything changed, no instant transformation. Instead, it was a gradual realization, one that had been forming all along. The silence wasn't empty. It was never about waiting for recognition or for someone else to validate the effort. It was about learning to trust the process, even when nothing seemed to be happening. Looking back, every setback, every doubt, every unseen hour of work had been shaping something stronger. The disappointments that once felt like failures had, in reality, been necessary steps. If things had happened sooner, if success had arrived too early, the foundation wouldn't have been strong enough to hold it. There's something powerful about knowing that you didn't just stumble into progress, you earned it. Every moment of struggle was necessary to become the kind of person who could truly handle success when it finally arrived. And when it does arrive, it looks different than expected. It isn't about a single moment of validation. It's about the confidence that comes from knowing you can keep going no matter what. The outside world may notice now. People who never paid attention before might suddenly see the results, but their recognition no longer matters in the way it once did. The real reward isn't the success itself, it's the person you had to become to reach it. With this realization, something shifts. The need for approval fades. The comparison to others disappears. There's no rush anymore, no need to chase validation. The work itself becomes the reward, and that changes everything. What once felt like a lonely road now feels like freedom. No longer controlled by external expectations, no longer distracted by the noise of the world, there is only one thing left: pure, focused, unstoppable momentum. And then, just as things begin to settle, the final lesson emerges. The silence never truly ends. The world may see the results now, but the real work, the deep, meaningful work, still happens in those unseen moments. It always will. True success isn't about arriving at a destination. It's about committing to the process for life. Not because of the rewards, not because of what others might think, but because you know, deep down, that this is what you were meant to do. The story doesn't end with applause. It doesn't end with a grand moment of recognition. It ends exactly as it started, in silence. But this time, the silence isn't intimidating. It isn't filled with doubt. It's filled with purpose. And that's the difference. The journey continues, not because of where it leads, but because of what it means. Because in the end, the true test was never about whether or not the world would notice. It was about whether or not you would keep going, even if it didn't. And now, without hesitation, the answer is clear. The work continues. The silence remains. And for the first time, that silence feels like home.